the California Highway Patrol. I don't remember the year. There's a study that they did testing marijuana users and drivers not under the influence of anything, and the study was fairly close. You know, there were some lags in response times, but that also depends highly upon the experience, the amount of experience the person has with using cannabis, and whether or not it's somebody that's never used it before, they're going to have much more trouble with it. But, you know, if you look at the number, I think 75 or 80% of all fatal car accidents are with alcohol, something that we already use, and which is a problem. But, you know, the cannabis THC does not affect the balance centers of the brain, and does not cause the type of inebriation that would cause, you know, reckless driving and things like that. And in fact, you know, it used to be that one of the profiles for finding a driver under the influence of cannabis was that they were a perfect driver. So try that on for a stigma. You know? Well,
that's like in this day and age, being a terrorist, you're wearing blue jeans and you're nice to the cops. Where does the fight to allow industrial hemp to be used again here in the United States, and well, at least 3,000 products that I've heard that can be used in?
Well, like I said earlier, it's well documented, at least 50,000 products. 3,000 products is what was documented in the 1910s and 20s, but it's gone far beyond that today.
So where do we go? I mean, how do we start changing the minds of people, you know, in power? That this is a type of resource, one that's easily renewable. I mean, it grows wild, for God's sakes.
Well, I don't think that approaching the people in power is what's going to solve the problem, because the people in power are the ones that have outlawed it. But, you know, the one thing that the U.S. government is, and any fascist government is afraid of, is education. And, you know, Jack Kerr put this information out 20 years ago, and, you know, to me, it just seems like common knowledge, because I've been around this information so long, and there's been so many hemp rallies and major hemp events throughout the country and throughout the world, even annually. There's a million marijuana march every year on Washington. It's either Washington or New York. But, you know, there has been progress in various states to allow hemp farming, and like I said, you know, California had a hemp crop, you know, 10 years ago that was cut down just before it was ready to go to the factory. There are campaigns all over the country, and they're always ongoing. But, you know, with the controlling media, there really hasn't been much talk about industrial hemp. In the late 90s, or actually mid 90s, we did get some television programs that would come on and give brief little talks about it and things like that. But you know, pretty soon it was brushed back under the rug. And, you know, it seems since about 2000, the information on industrial hemp is for the most part escaped the public mind. And, you know, I attribute part of that to my friend Jack Kerr. He had a major stroke in 2000 and wasn't really able to lead the hemp movement single-handedly as he had done for over 20 years any longer. The hemp movement is still there, and it's still going, and we do have, you know, successes here and there. I think it was last year, the city of Oakland passed a law making marijuana the lowest possible offense below jaywalking and spitting on the sidewalk. Right. You know, and Seattle, Washington has done the same thing, and Seattle, Washington for the last 10 years has hosted the huge Seattle Hemp Fest, which annually brings in about 200,000 visitors and packs the hotels and you know, really has a huge following. But you're not going to find the information about industrial hemp in the corporate media very often.
Well, it all goes back to something that Richard Andrew Grove has mentioned on numerous occasions: the fact that we don't know our history. You know, if it was that we knew our history, then we would have known that the great uses for this product, and the ban probably would have never been allowed to have been put into place in the first time at all.
Right. You know, and you know, as like Hitler said, the bigger the lie, the more people will believe it. And unfortunately, people in our culture don't have the common sense to fact check things that they're told by the media. You know, when I'm when I hear something on the news, especially the corporate news, the first thing I do is I go out and I fact check it.
Right.
And 90% of the time it ends up being complete garbage. But your average citizen watches Fox or CNN or MSNBC and these stations, and gets fed their daily fill of propaganda and believes it unquestioningly like some religious faith. And it's rather unfortunate because that type of ignorance has really led our society down the wrong path.
Well, and I mean, it's interesting because people will parrot exactly what was said on a television show the night before. I've seen discussions about things here in the United States about things changing. It always goes left, right, and that's all part and parcel of what we have been told by the media, that right is good, left is bad, or vice versa, depending on your point of view.
Except you forget there is a whole body walking the left and right legs along.
Exactly, and that usually there's not much difference between the left and the right leg, if any at all.
Right.
But this whole story of industrial hemp just brings it home widescreen that we have to start looking at our past to understand what's happening to us now. Because, again, history repeats itself. And the reason history repeats itself is because it worked before, it'll work again. And so, the powers that be that will continue to run the same playbook over and over and over because, again, it works. I used a football analogy here the other night. If I know that I'm going to make 6 yards a carry by running the football off the left tackle, I'm going to run the football off the left tackle every time. Because every 2 downs I'm going to make a first down. And I'm going to continue to run that play until you on the defense can stop me. And then I'll come up with another play. And that's what we see here. I mean, look at the demonization of this product. This is a product that was used medicinally, it was used industrially, and then overnight, practically, it was turned into basically a pariah.
Yeah, the demon weed, the devil weed.
Well, I mean, even in the movies.
One thing I forgot to mention earlier is how they pushed the marijuana laws through. I think it was originally California and Utah that were the first to ban marijuana before it was banned at the federal level, and with the Tax Act in 1937. But how they banned it was basically banned against blacks and Mexicans. And what they said was that marijuana enabled black musicians to play music that would entice white women to touch them and want to sleep with them. And the same thing with Mexicans. It made Mexican men want to step on white men's shadows and to look at white women, which was illegal at the time. So, the whole outline of marijuana was based on complete prejudice and no science whatsoever. As it's still not, the federal government has spent 70 years looking for scientific evidence to substantiate their claims. And in the 20s, heroin led to marijuana. In the 30s and 40s, it was reversed. I remember in the 80s it was said that marijuana caused sterility and would cause men to grow breasts, and in the 90s it was back again to the gateway drug theory, leading on to other things. And it's been scientifically proven that one substance cannot give you an addiction for another substance.
Right.
So the whole gateway theory is kind of a farce. And if we want to look at gateway theories, it's like how many kids are given medicines with alcohol in them, or given a taste of wine or beer or hard alcohol as a child, And alcohol is responsible for the majority of murders and violence and rapes and things like that, where, crimes related directly to marijuana are almost non-existent.